been started.
Right, welcome everyone along to our meeting today, 1st December. Peggy, you're welcome to your first full meeting. I hope you enjoy your time and you'll get used to Stu eventually. No public forum condolences. I'd just like everyone to stand for a moment of silence for the death of the Maniototo locals of May Collins, Pat McCormick and Gary Easton. Thank you very much. Apologies. Have we done apologies? No. We need some apologies, have we?
Right here.
Mayor and Sancho both apologies.
Exceeded.
Second to please, and Helm, all those in favour? Aye, against? Thank you. We have someone to confirm the minutes of the previous meeting as a true and correct record, please.
Not that.
Duncan. Seconder.
Yep.
Rebecca McCauley, all those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried, thank you. Just remind members if they feel they have a conflict of interest in any of the proceedings, please say so. Right, first Janice. Seen for ages.
No.
10 minutes.
Right. Mr. Chairman. Right, we are reviewing the Maniototo Trust Fund guidelines, which is something that we do every 3 years after the triennial elections, just to make sure that you're happy with the way it's been running. So in the report, the first two paragraphs, background, are not quite correct. So I had to bring a correction to those. So the Maniototo Trust Fund investment account is held by the Central Otago District Council. The Maniototo Trust Fund was derived from the sale of the Otago Electric Power Board shares following the electricity reforms in 1999. In 2002, the Maniototo Community Board elected to invest those proceeds from the sale of the shares and administer the funds via the Maniototo Trust Fund, which is what we did this morning. Power supply to other council wards was from the Otago Central Electric Power Board, of which the Central Lakes Trust was a benefactor of the sale of the Otago Central Electric Power Board shares. What I had always believed was that the power shares were from the same electric company and that the Maniototo Community Board elected to invest in the trust fund. So I had that wrong. Sorry, there's the correction. Okay, I've only believed that for 18 years until of course today. Did you know that?
Didn't want to bring it up here.
Did you know that? Did you know it was wrong?
I didn't know it was wrong. Knew where it came from.
Ah, that it was different from the other one. I think we might.
Because we all the farmers got paid out cash.
Yeah, I think where we might have to be careful is if we get applications from St Bathans, because St Bathans is still in the Central Lakes, and we have had a couple of applications to the Maniototo Trust Fund in the past. So, yeah. Anyway, so sorry about that, folks. There's the correction. So the distribution of funds, you'll all be well aware of the process now that we join with the external Community Trust of Maniototo. Makes it easy for the applicants, join together with them. They hold their funds. Maniototo Trust Fund holds their funds separately. The Maniototo Trust Fund guidelines is for CapEx purpose only. And that we only, or that the Maniototo Trust Fund only gives out 85% of the interest earned in the previous financial year. If there are significant capital projects that you wish to undertake, according to the guidelines, there needs to be a public meeting before that decision can proceed with the project, and a significant project is defined for costs over 50,000. And if that's the case, it would have to go through a special consultative process. There had been some discussion when the two trusts were together about the Maniototo Trust Fund going over to the Community Trust of Maniototo, in the eventuality that there was significant repercussions with the local government reform that's happening. I have gotten the report that it's probably premature to be thinking about that at the moment. And once there's more clear guidelines on the table about how and what that would look like, that would be the time to have some discussion around that. So the only changes that I've recommended in the guidelines is that they stand and they'll operate until the end of 2025, when it'll be reviewed again after the next election.
Very good.
So Becky, what don't you understand? We're in no hurry,
No hurry.
so just, you want to explain to Becky what a CapEx project is, how you work CapEx out for the.
So a CapEx project is anything to do with capital. It's you're doing something to a building. I've got two accountants on the side there. This is very. So it's anything that you can structural or something that you can own and you can sell and get a return from.
Yeah.
Okay. So vinyl on the floor, we wouldn't treat as CapEx because you rip it up and you pull it up and it rips. There's nothing to resell.
Yeah.
Carpet, we treat carpet as capital. You can rip it up and you can pull it up in one piece and sell it. The painting, things like painting the building, we don't, or painting the wall of the buildings, not CapEx. So it's something tangible that you can resell. Generally something tangible that you can resell.
What?
So you think about the business,
Yeah.
and it shows that enlightenment that is capital as opposed to something that's operational. So what Janice is saying here, if you were painting a wall, it's basically maintenance.
Yeah.
It's operational expenses. So a capital project, like in the community concerned, if we've got a skate park or something like this, something like that. To bring long-term benefits. Yeah.
And like today, we gave funding to the arts group for a mirror or a dance,
Nice.
where if it was just for the dancers going away for training, it would come out of the other trust fund. So it might be the playground will give it, or the seats around the park.
Yeah.
Or the irrigation or the playground equipment rather than funding other things like the dance lesson itself.
Yeah.
I'll move that. Recommendation, whatever it is.
So which one?
Recommend the board means option one. Option A.
Option one.
Agree to amend clause 9 in the guidelines of Maniototo Trust Fund to read.
End of 2025 news means a trust more review. Yep.
The Stu, you've moved it?
Yep. That's it.
Duncan Helm seconded. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried, thank you. There's nothing else you want to add to that, Janice? It's all pretty straightforward, isn't it?
No, you're happy with the way it's trucking?
Yeah, I do. Because there's certain, after being involved in the other one, they've obviously gone out and reinvested their monies and all that. And there's been a lot of history of the money's been invested before. And that's why I've sat here, because I was started when that original money went missing. Not missing, but it got lost through financial investment. And I do think even if we had to change it, there's still got to be an elected representative of the board or of the community on somewhere anyway. And it's very hard if you come in for one meeting a year or 2 meetings a year to see what we see during a year, whether it be grants funded or other stuff come around this table. So while they may look at it in isolation and go, oh, that's a really great idea, we go, actually, we've been dishing out money. It might have been the hospital, could be the curling rink, could have been the art centre. You know, it's been coming time and time again. But if you only come to 2 meetings, you might only just see that. So I think it's important that we have to have majority of our board or a fair chunk of our board even on theirs. So at the moment it works fine because and to be fair, there's probably people sitting around their trust fund group that might well be very good elected members in time.
Oh, absolutely.
To allow them to come into the system through that process. So I think it's fine, and we give them a lot, I reckon, and advice or knowledge as well. So I reckon it's fine.
I think it does. And if we're still out of the interest, how much are we putting back into it? Was it?
So the balance there,
You know, I mean, the
Oh,
percentage of the interest, sorry.
so 15%. So you're only spending 85%. That's what's been budgeted to spend annually, is 85% of the interest earned on the previous year.
Yeah.
So at the moment, it is significantly down to what we've had in the past. But that will slowly come up again. And I can't see that. Well, you might decide that you want to give 100% of the interest. That's up to you.
Yeah, no, but it was written down at 85%, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, that's in the
Just
guidelines.
making sure I was on the right track.
Yeah.
And that discussion we had at our meeting today, and now we've got Susan here, she may have a different look at it compared to what Leanne did. But we need to look at our grants policy in general, where we have historical grants that come through this system to go on to be how we look at that. So we haven't got a lot of money there, but we can rate for some of the grants that are coming to us. I know we can't have a pot. We can't make a pot only until we have our grants come in, but there will be a lot of ways of fixing something like the swimming lessons or something like that as a benefit to our community through our grants policy that's getting taken out of stuff that's not allowing the mirror or something that we, you know, because effectively we just rate for $4,000 for the sport hub or whatever it may be, which might have swimming, might have children's da-da-da. And it may be a discussion, and Susan will be as good as anyone because she's been the CEO of Central Lakes Trust, has been involved with trust for the last 5 or 6 or 7 years, so however long it's been. But I think that's a discussion we have at a workshop one day about it and see how we can increase our community pot. But this one's not really going to increase enough for the inflation and cost of living for us to make a real difference. Where Dawn's trying to do that, and it's going downhill on it, but we can do that through rates.
Yep.
We'll need to probably have a workshop about that one day, or take that back and say how we get more community money when we drag it out some other way. Thank you.
So is that it? That's everything that's in the Janice. The only thing I was going to ask, was that a yearly reinvestment of that money, or was it the reinvestment of the 200,000?
So finance team would be better to answer that, but
Thank you for
my understanding is yeah, the trust fund, it's just invested alongside council's other monies, isn't it? But it's ring fenced. Well,
So it could be in a long-term investment for 2 or 3 years or.
Yeah.
but the interest of it shows quite clearly of what it's earned for a year, and it's that year that I look at when I work out the percentage of it.
No, that's fine. Right. Let's have a move and second that. All done. Thank you, Janice. Brant.
So this is Frank, for those of you that don't know Frank, he's an accountant in the finance team. And Donna couldn't be here today, so Frank's gonna take over.
Welcome along.
Thank you.
So don't forget, this is Becky, our new community board member. We've got Duncan Helm here. I was presuming you've met Stu.
Yeah.
Welcome along. It's good to see a new face.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so as there are a few new community board members, I thought I would start by taking you through what goes into our quarterly financial reports before discussing the actual results. The financial information in the report for Maniototo Ward includes the activities and budgets which are governed by the community board, whereas the council financial reports includes all the community board and the council activities. The first table in this report is the operating statement. This shows where we are at for the period being reported on and include the annual plan budgets and the full year revised budget. It is designed to ensure that the community board can see the variance against the ledger throughout the year. The actual year-to-date and revised year-to-date financial information is used to create the variance year-to-date. The second table is the capital expenditure table. This relates to the capital projects that are happening in the financial year. These are broken down into the main project activities. There's also a revised funds table attached to this report. This will be covered in other session in next year. Now back to the reports. For the 3 months ending 30th September 2022, which is from July, August, September, shows a favorable variance of 3,000 against the revised budget. Operating income reflects a favorable variance to the revised budget of 3,000. Now, the overall income is on track with budgets. It implies all the inflows that we're expecting to in line with the budgets. There were minimal variance in user fees and the other incomes, the internal interest and rates. Reserve contribution has a favorable variance of 6,000. This is mainly due to the payment of 2 resource consents. Now, operating expenditure during this period was in line with revised budgets. Most of the expenditures were more of need-based expenditures. For capital expenditure, a total of 10% of the total revised budget has been spent. Tax and reserves has an overall favorable variance of 17,000. Other reserves has a favorable variance of 14,000. The installation work of Nesby Flying Fox equipment was completed in July 2022. Now, this project was budgeted last financial year. It was carried into this financial year, which was completed in July this year. The procurement plan for John Street Playground project has been submitted for approval, with the project expected to be completed in May 2022. So this has to do with refurbishing of the playground, the entire playground, and also replacing items. Property has an overall unfavorable variance of 4,000. The community hall shows unfavorable variance of 4,000. This is mainly due to Wapiata hall installation heat pump and the super room project being completed. Thank you. That's me. Any questions?
How did the playground survey thing come up? Okay.
Oh,
Like, did it, was it pretty much what it was in the plan and?
Yep.
Was everyone happy with it? sort of?
Yeah, I'll talk about it.
Very good. No?
Becky, how you going with all that?
Taking it in.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Talk a bit more about it when we do the induction.
I'll move that.
Right, we have Stu move that report be accepted. Please have a seconder. Duncan Hell. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried, thank you. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you.
Got no mayor. That's it. No news. Who's the mayor? He's at the LG.
Like Governor New Zealand, isn't
Local government.
he? That, lucky, very lucky.
Right. Hey, the other week, last week, I went to the Federated Farmers meeting in Alexandria about methane emissions. And there were some pretty scary numbers getting floated around about what it's going to cost a farm or a farmer for their stock. That was 11. What did it end up at, Stu? 11 cents a.
I don't go, but I've been.
One farmer told me it was going to cost them $170,000 per year for methane, which seems like a very large amount of money for a small farm with 5,000 stock units. So it was attended by quite a few people, quite a few angry farmers. I don't really blame them. Last night I was at the Otago Regional Council meeting on the new water land, not called water management plan, it's called the water land plan now. And once again, there was some, I gave Stu and Duncan, I passed a form around of what the questions they gave you and what they were submitting on what they were doing. And the problem with I saw and a lot of farmers thought was that they gave you a statement of what you thought and whether you should agree with it or disagree. The trouble was every statement they gave you had to agree with because it was the logical thing, but it was how they were going to implement it. Like there was one there, all land that's unused for farming, blah 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 blah, should be planted in trees. Anything over a certain steepness should be planted in trees because it's useless. Then one guy stood up and said, well, what doesn't grow with trees? And they said grass. And he said, well, then you've got erosion. All this sort of stuff. It was very hard to get answers out of them. I had a long discussion with Richard Robertson and Gavin Hurley. He was sitting there for quite a while talking, and they're telling us in 1 year's time all this is going to be implemented. So it's not a long time to implement a large piece of work, basically replacing the last water management plan. There was a lot of discussion over Lake Waihola actually about the sediment that's turning up in Lake Waihola, and it's basically getting blamed on the upper Taieri catchment that everybody heading down there. So they tell me you can now walk across Lake Waihola.
You can walk across the front end of the Clutha as well.
Yeah, I don't know if I could try that. I've tried that in the boat. It's a bit soft. That was done. We had a large discussion with what they call them, Akaha. I was talking to Tim Bale quite a while about it. They were quite adamant that what they call it, the mountain to the sea was going to come in. So that's the water. The water starts there, runs to there at a certain flow. Years ago, for those who don't know, there's a Waipiatas out there, right? At the Green Bridge. At the Green Bridge, they used to get what they call a head of water, which is a Q-sec of water. That was all that was left of the bridge. You could walk across the river there in jandals and not get wet feet. Since they built the Moss Swamp, there now runs 1 cubic of water, a cubic metre of water per second at the bridge. And that's just what the farmers have done. That's not something that was demanded of them. They put water in the river. Yeah. Des Bleach used to be able to basically block the river to pump its water. Yeah. So where they're going, nobody really knows, I don't think. I'm afraid I left quite disillusioned on what I'd heard. Had a quick catch up with the contractors at the hospital actually. I called in to see them and everything's going quite well. They've got a big hole. There's stuff disappearing into. It's good. At the moment, they're waiting for tests on the asbestos content ground. I thought there was none. Well, I think they're checking to see if there is any. So that if you go past, you'll see there's a lot of sprinklers going. What are you shaking your head at? Do you know something? Yeah, I should. But if you go past, you'll see there's quite a few sprinklers going, and they just it's just to keep the dust down while the tests are being done, as far as I understand. I was just talking to the foreman there, but everything's gone quite well, and they're just waiting to put tests to see what's happening at the bottom. I went out to Paul's Ford to have a look at the bridge. I haven't been able to get a hold of James Patterson. What did it cost to get the bridge on? Do you know, and who paid for it? Because I've heard stories about $50,000 for farmers to pay for it to go on. And
No, so council met the cost of the installation of the bridge, and the lease costs are being shared with the farmer.
so what would the installation cost be, any roughly?
I believe the total cost, including a bunch of works, and I'd hate to comment off the top of my head.
100,000.
Yeah, I'll confirm.
And what's the lease for the year? Is it?
I believe it's $3,300 split in half. I believe it's 3,300.
Well, yeah, exactly. I got told it was 50,000. No, not sure. But so that bridge, is it? How long do you think it's going to be there for? Is it no idea?
So that's part of the bridge strategy work around looking at replacement options and different things like that. So that will form part of council's planning.
Right.
There's currently a 3-year contract with Walker Kentucky for that bridge there.
Right. I had a couple of ladies talking to me about trees around the street, and they were two of the ladies that originally, 18 years ago, they planted all the trees. 18 years ago. Janice?
Which street trees are you talking about?
All the ones up the streets, you know, in front of the houses and that.
Thomas Street and the last of that.
Yeah.
Way longer than 18 years ago.
Yeah, it was quite a while.
Would have been when the beautification
Yeah.
society was going, which is way before my time.
Well, these two ladies were part of it. And they were actually commenting on how a lot of the trees have deteriorated and the age of them, and whether they're going to be replaced in years to come. I just said it would be something to do in a workshop meeting one day. Please, are we building in Naseby? Main Street, the wee white one.
Yes.
What's happening there?
We are working with the building owner to find a solution.
Which could be,
Well, it either needs to have a resource consent for a building in a heritage precinct, or it needs to be removed.
was there no consent for the building?
So,
So, can I ask how it got there if there was no consent? Because I had a very irate lady the other day in Naseby.
yes, we've had a bit of comment from residents in Naseby. And what happens when a building consent comes in, it gets a check to see whether it needs a resource consent.
Yep.
And the staff member who picked this up and checked it, checked the maps online and rather than the paper maps, and it wasn't as clearly marked that there's a heritage precinct as it might be. We've changed that now. So it was a mistake by staff. So we're working with the owner to try and find a solution.
So the solution is to either A, remove it.
Yeah, and I'm happy to go back to anyone who would like me to have a discussion.
Yeah, or what's the other options with it?
They can apply for, and I'm not sure if there's a consent being made, but they can make an application for resource consent, which will need to address the heritage values of the precinct and may or may not be granted.
So can they reclad the building into something that looks like it's heritage?
They can promote anything they like that they think might make the final look of the building consistent with the heritage precinct value.
So seeing the count,
Sorry, Roger?
who's to pay for all that? Is that a council mistake that the council has to pay for, or is it a?
I'm conscious that this is something that might be legal.
Yep.
So, we cannot really second guess any outcome that might go down the process.
Pool staff, Janice, you can't talk about pool staff, can you? How are we getting on a pool staff this year?
So we're doing relatively well with pool staff. The problem is the staff that we have recruited are not available to us to do any training or anything until next week. So we have got two senior, we've got one existing pool staff, Eva. We've got another, I'll say senior person, coming on board, but they need to be trained with their PLPC. And then we've got 3 or 4 junior staff that are doing their PLPC next week. We have not seen them in the pool yet, so that is why the pool's not opening until later, until the 10th of December is opening day. Because we have to have adequate staff to staff the pool, and until we've seen these people in the water.
Yeah.
And they haven't made themselves available to us until next week.
Can I ask what the PLPC
Oh,
is?
sorry, pool lifeguard practicing certificate.
Probably should have guessed most of it. Yeah, only last time I saw a lifeguard that had that was on payroll.
Can I ask a question about the pool?
Yep, you can. No,
Is there any way that we can look at changing the hours of the swimming pool? In regards to, I've had a lot of feedback because obviously with the swimming club on there. A lot of people are saying, why can't the swimming pool be open from 7 to 5 all day? And I know that the school hired them out, but the school classes are really small, so they're never going to use the whole facility, bar, swimming sports and whatnot. So that public can go in at lunchtime. Mums, before they pick up their kids from school, can go for a swim instead of having such, and therefore as well, staff-wise, split shifts. So they go to the work for 2.5 hours in the morning, and they have to go home or whatnot for 5 hours.
So they're not actually having that split shift because the aqua club are coming in straight away after that training in the morning.
Yeah.
There's also time that they have to put vacuums in the water and whatnot, and it's about staff. There's no reason why the hours can't be reviewed, but we know the numbers through the doors are not
At the level that it is now, for sure. We just wonder if there's ways to look at it to increase numbers of people using the facilities, as maybe the hours need to be looked at to make it a little bit more user friendly.
Yes, it's certainly, well, to be honest, one of the suggestions that they want the aquatics manager, and house manager wants all the hours back.
Mhm.
And I specifically asked no, that we can't pull them back this season. They want to bring back to 7 o'clock, so I thought they made it 8. The schools, we would have to talk to the schools as well to see if they are happy sharing the pool or not, because it's a small environment and it's a noisy environment. It's not like the pools in Alex and Cromwell where you can have a section. There's no reason why it can't be looked at, but it's the numbers through the doors and,
Be cool to try it for a while, even do a section.
if it's a lunchtime session, is there support for a lunchtime session? And it's staffing.
I don't
What can
think
we
it's
staff, what can we
set
not?
hours. I think it's people to know that if they can go to the pool from 7 to 5 every day, I think you'll see more people using it. I really do, because the word on the street is so frustrating. And then you go at 3 and the kids are all there from school, which is great, awesome, but no one's gonna swim.
So I think if I could just comment through the chair, I think Janice is exactly right. We definitely can review that, and I'm sure that's something on David's radar
With you, you're not in.
Yeah. And I think the point is, Becky, understanding the demand.
Yeah.
Because anything we do to change the hours changes, how we're dealing with staff, and, in this environment's quite challenging. So if we've got a feel for how many people are coming to you and whether, you know, that just helps us think about what that might look like and how they want to use the pool and when, and that might be something to think about.
And encouraging more people to become junior lifeguards or
Would be very good.
pool, what do you don't call them lifeguards, just pool crew, yeah, so.
Get a nice t-shirt.
And the only other thing I had was the playground here. I was talking to Janice and I got in touch with Marie Gordon. The plans are finalised. And I think they're talking about starting in February next year. Janice, playground, are they talking about starting in February next year?
I'm not sure.
I had an email, but I somehow managed to delete it. My usual good fingers. No, but she's had a reasonable sort of feedback from everyone, and they seem to have come up with a plan that everyone's relatively happy with. And that's all I've got. Does that report be accepted?
I'll move the chair's report be accepted.
Seconder, please. Becky. All those in favour? All right, against? Very, thank you. Members report. Becky, you want to go first, or do you want?
No, thank you.
You want to go? You understand? You just want. So if you're being somewhere, you want to bring something to the place to do it, and we have people here that, as you can see, can answer questions if you have questions. If they can't answer the question at the time, they'll find out how to get the information to you.
I'll go last.
Right.
You're going up to him.
Yeah.
I haven't got a great deal, but I see the broom on the side of the roads is feeling pretty good at the moment. Easy to spot, green and bright yellow flowers. Not some back roads there's quite a few, probably come past quite a bit between Wedderburn and Rantville on the side of the roads. Chairman mentioned before, there's trees around the streets. There's been mention about the trees in John Street, the fire trucks are hitting them.
The ones in the middle.
Yeah.
And the ones at the fire brigade asked not to be planted.
Yeah. This street out here, I've had mentioned from a few people. So it's right outside the building here, from Northland Street to Dungannon Street, the roughest bit of street in the town. Potholes, manholes that sort of been to be sunk down a bit. Then there's a couple of really ugly looking repair bits right across from side to side, which you can't avoid. We do try and avoid it in the ambulance. It's not a great ride for whoever's in the back. And the footpath straight across from the building is gravel. It's the only gravel one. It's a bit of use from the campground. Only gravel in the town. There's grass, sort of a foot high on it. And the probably needs a bit of curving and channeling in a footpath over towards the art centre. Around Spud Moore's house. The only other thing I've got is about a month ago I went down, I was invited down to the rescue chopper heli launch, the latest launch at the hangar in Mosgiel, where they launched the latest new rescue chopper. It's, I think, the thick end of 18 to 19 million for the machine. They are busy. When we got there a bit after 5 o'clock, there was 4 big black helicopters sitting outside the hangar. We left 3 hours later and 3 of them were gone on jobs. But a fair part of that night was about the send off, or celebrate Doug Flett's 28 years as the head heli paramedic down there. He's no longer with the helis, he's back on the road, driving a Tango unit, which is basically a Hilux with a heap of gear on the back. Everything from defibs to ballistic vests. I think if you got to put one on them on, you'd be questioning you whether you could be there or not.
Yeah.
And it was a pretty good night. There was all walks of life there. There was everything from paramedics to farmers from all over Target and further south. And they had the original Spates rescue helicopter there.
The red one.
The blue one with the big Spates sign logo down the side. They dropped the curtain on that, and it actually looked reasonably big when you're standing off it a bit. And then they dropped the next curtain, which had the latest chopper sitting beside it, and it looked like a mini beside a Chev. And they had quite a few speakers. One of them was Mike Hunter, who was head of the ICU, was the head of the ICU unit in Dunedin, who did a fair bit of heli work, and he's basically said that with that chopper and the stuff they've got in it, they're world class, if not world leading in some areas. So we're pretty lucky to have all that sort of gear here. It's the most up-to-date machine in the country. And there's another one ordered. The boss, the rep from Airbus was at it. He spoke and he said that the serial numbers being created for the new chopper. So we've got another one coming at some stage.
Must have a premium banker.
UEC Finance, I think. And that's about me.
Yeah, talking about the broom, who's broom? It's actually bad. Like last year they sprayed quite a bit of broom and they had quite a good kill.
Yeah.
But whether it's just the year, like you say, the broom, there's a lot of broom run.
It's standing out at the moment. It's got the yellow flags on the bed. They had some good kills out around home, but the stuff coming back up through it's easier to keep on top and get on top.
What they spray with, they
Cool.
they are using tool
And
on.
it's just starting to spray around now, but there's been with a bit of rain and everything, it's just been pushed out a little bit. So, but they're currently spraying now.
Just the use of the fact about broom grows sevenfold a year, so they might have sprayed a whole lot of it. It'll be a bit sitting down the side of a pen, and in 6 or 8 months it's 7 times the height. So you can see it where it is.
Huge stuff. Right. It's all costs money too, unfortunately. Any cheaper. I think you're done. Stu, do you want to go?
I'll go then. Yeah, I've been quite busy. Roading, having quite a few discussions. It just keeps coming back up. Yesterday I had to go down to Beaumont to meet a group of irate farmers who were concerned about staff or council carting inappropriate material onto roads. So both Trace and I got summons down there with some staff and Fulton Hogan, but it actually ended up being quite good when we sat around and they were mitigating what they were trying to do, and the council explained what they're trying to do to try and improve the running surface. But through the crux of it, we've had discussions with the staff today that getting the gravel and the right type of gravel is important, not only for the Maniototo, for the Teviot, or up in Danzy's Pass or whatever. So, we explained that we're trying to find avenues, and but no, everyone at the end of the day came out better. We had discussions regarding pricing, costing and bridging, target rates. So it was quite a good, you talk about communicating, but it was quite a good discussion. Got quite heated at times, always good fun. Going back to your water thing, I did get invited on a Thursday night at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, a letter from the government, from Ministry of Primary Industries and Ministry for the Environment, to attend a meeting of Hiwaka Ikanoa in Dunedin on a Monday at 10 o'clock. So really short time to go there, but I made sure I got to town. Had quite a discussion with a group of about 20 farmers from Oamaru to Invercargill. Put it this way, I think they firmly got told what the rural community thought, and I think they thought they'd come along and have a nice chat and we'd all get on very well. I have luckily got an original agreement from the government under Pete Hodgkinson and Jim Sutton about the pricing in 2003, which they destroyed the copies after they realised the election they weren't going to get through, and they were talking 7 cents a sheet and 68 cents a cattle beast and all that. And all that money would go into funding science and technology. And I see the Prime Minister yesterday came out with science, technology, innovation hubs, and that whole money capture will go into that. It doesn't seem to be this next lot of money around will go all into science and to the agriculture-based industry. And I was talking to one of the guys in OM Financial, who's the biggest carbon trader in the world, a guy called Nigel Brunel, and he reckons that they won't look at sequestration of trees and farmland at the moment because it's just too difficult. So it'll be a minimalistic tax, and his argument, they have 100 million to recoup. So 25,000 sheep and 7 million cows, divide 100 million by that, and that's probably where it'll sit. So it is a big thing. It did worry me a wee bit that your meat companies and your wool companies are running now around, and they can sell your carbon or sequester your carbon for you if you're selling your product, but you can't claim it back as a government offset. And that's the main sticking point. But a lot of work on that. I had a lot, and in that, I guess following on from that, I've got written down his staff, but our staff are getting grief from a lot of people. There's a lot of angry people out there, not just the farmers, rate bars and everyone's. So I know Louise and I have had discussions for the last 3 or 4 weeks is people are not only attacking me, but they're indirectly attacking staff. And I know even at funerals, with people going up and lining up council staff because of issues they have instead of the process and letting it work. So for all you staff that are getting hammered, I'm sorry, but we live in times like we're going through now, people are frustrated. They feel like taking out a lot of people. Workshop, we had a workshop the other day on the next term, planning what's coming up, and trust me, there's a lot coming down the line from government, a lot coming down the line through representation, local government, how it's going to look, involvement with iwi, what that's going to look like, how that process. We've just had a change around all the management, and maybe Louise can talk about that at some stage, and then where our teams are just different build for all, but you'll get to know that they're not so much for us, but just for you, Becky, who's in charge of what and where. And a lot of work going on in that space. Water, a lot of work, and in that Julie gave an update on 3 waters, and that to me still gets muddy, but definitely lots of Omakau wastewater, Omakau drinking water, and probably the part I'm frustrated, and one of our senior members of staff might be able to talk us through it. There's a lot of the talk of future proofing, or maybe thinking of taking water from the Clyde Dam to Omakau, or pumping waste from Omakau to Alexandra. And I think if you start putting that, which we've never had discussions into budgets or look at long term, it always will look like water's going to be something we can never afford and never do anything. And it probably feels like it plays in the hand of 3 waters. And it worried me reading the paper, and I might not be 100% correct, but obviously Parliament passed the Act through the other day, breaking away from the 75% of all elected members in Parliament to change the privatisation of water, and that somehow got pushed through to 60% of all elected members. And that was in the newspaper yesterday. So it looks like ultimately it could be privatised if you have 60% of the member of Parliament's voting, or members of Parliament, which really could be one side or the other, to privatise water. And I guess that for weak councils like us is a really big risk. Positive tourism, the numbers we've got on our counter on the rail trail is the busiest October ever on the rail trail. Not necessarily all stay and eat and drink, but I think you'll see a lot of vans and watch caravans and caravan parks. But the people going over the counter at Wedderburn was the most ever in the history of the rail trail. So there's a lot of people moving around, and you've only got to go down to the Wedderburn pub for 2 or 3 nights a week. If I go down there to see 3. To see there's a lot of people that are not locals that are calling in for meals, and you know, there was people for a walking group the other day, and there was a hunt club doing a fundraiser for charity and all that sort of stuff. So a lot of people on the trail. Farming issue, I think we've had the golden years, and definitely with interest rates, and Robert was saying yesterday, the water issues coming down the line, and with China's zero policy on COVID, it is having a massive effect on agriculture at the moment, and that China have somehow got rid of their swine flu issue, and they're producing pork on a mass scale, which will undermine the value of ewe and mutton, which is a big thing we export. So farming's going to have a pretty flat run, I think. We're just lucky probably at the moment we've got a fantastic season and coming off some really good seasons, but it's just muddy water out there for the, what's in our communities has a big flow on effect. You know, just spending and feel good factor, and they go back to the staff and people and elected members especially getting they're here chewed. It might not necessarily be nothing about council, but because we're a council, we really seem to be in the gun. So look out for that. Yeah, footpaths, don't touch about that. Going on to obviously our rural fire. Duncan and I both on the committee of rural fire. We've got a great turnout of 53 young guys and girls on our rural team, which adds support to the EMBOs. Both you guys are on the EMBOs, and it's pretty tough out there, but looks like we're not getting our new truck. We think we're going to have to fundraise for that vehicle. It was looking that they're going to give us one. Now they're not going to give us one. We don't really know, but Wellington won't make a decision. But I do think somewhere down the line we might have to have a nice good fundraising event in the Ramfleet Hall or stadium to raise money for our fire appliance. But it is really good, and it'll take this time to, I know, to Dunk and to Beck and Janice, all the people who do our emergency services, we get really short on numbers for EMBO, but we've got a really good group of people in our rural fire. And when we talk about the discussions about wilding pines or trees, a lot of grass growth and fires, and carbon farming and all that, they're pretty busy. But our volunteers in our community do a magnificent job. And I was in Christchurch at the show the other day, talking when Duncan was, I got invited to that thing, the helicopter trust, and to start off with a buddy jet ranger helicopter picking people up. I remember them turning up outside the Wedderburn pub, people picking up now to see what they got cruising around. It's been amazing, and we're very lucky for that. Yeah, got the spray gear off the Wedderburn pub, put people in the back and fly them to the need. Yeah, so pretty lucky about that. And it is our last meeting, so I would take this time to thank our staff and our board, new and old, the ones who aren't here. And I would say it has been really muddy waters the last 3 years for staff, and things changed in the rules and laws. And the next 3 or 4 will be equally as tricky. So to all, and I know it's task and it's hard for Sanctuary and with a lot of churn of staff. And to our board, it's been a pretty constant board with Rebecca replacing Sue and Harry being there. It's pretty good. And for the staff, I'm sure you see what you get down here, and it doesn't change so much, which is a very good thing in a lot of ways. And you know, when people are interested, I'm sure there'll be gaps to people. So big ups to Robert and the board and to all the staff and to the Sanctuary, and have a good Christmas. And pretty much that's me. I think we've got another meeting next week at Cow. So we've got another 2 meetings, one on the 14th, one on the 23rd. Is that right, everyone? Maybe, yes, 2 meetings. And 21st. Because we haven't got any audit risk or something, haven't we? We didn't get all that ticked off or something, right? So yeah, that's me, and I'll move my report, the council report. I'd like checking it.
Oh, no, it just goes under the members' reports now, Stu Helen.
Is it?
Yep.
Doesn't matter if you're council or not anymore.
Thank you, Stu. Jackie, would you like to add anything to what you've heard, or anything you've heard?
Excuse me, like obviously I'm new to this,
Yep.
but like obviously things are really busy down the street on the main street. So I said, so we've got like 2 new businesses. One's already opened and it's getting slammed, which is awesome. On the street there, and there's another one about to open this weekend. So these are 3 young ladies. So it's super exciting. So the main street, I think, is looking awesome at the moment. Just a wee general concern about that, about their neighbour, who obviously owns a lot of cars, and maybe you've dealt with this before. So I've just been questioned in regards to that. Where do they stand?
Louise is the person you'll talk to, and she'll give you the answer.
But we have talked about
Yeah. At the moment, things are really peaceful and it's really good. They don't want to ruffle feathers, but they also want to know what rights they have if things start being parked up again and whatnot.
So there's not a lot we can do about people parking cars on their property. Parking on the street, as long as they're legally warranted and registered, that's fine.
Okay.
Providing the parking is. If they're using the property for something that it isn't zoned for, that's a different matter, but just storing cars on the property is not something we can easily deal with. Similar to if a property is really messy, it's not necessarily the business of council. But I think it's worth just mentioning, because from time to time around the table there's complaints from the community about certain things, and the best thing for them to do is put in a service request, and once they get into that habit, then that stops you having to bring something here and potentially waiting for 6 weeks for a response or so service request is a good way to do it.
Because we have talked about it on quite a few occasions, haven't we? About the
We
cars.
definitely have.
And
Yeah.
you did mention one time about environmental health or something, rats,
It has to be very bad before it becomes an environmental health issue.
which is where you're talking about rats, cats,
Yeah.
vermin, basically, if you.
And there's only a couple of times I can ever remember that we've done something under that type of legislation.
So just the
So you'd have to be actually catching rats in a trap, poison them.
They'd have to be visibly there for us to go, this is a health issue. And I think this is more around a visual issue. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you've got a video of 10 rats running across your back garden, they're going in and out and things like that, would that help?
If that is actually the issue, but I suspect it's not.
It won't, it's not there.
It's an environmental eyesore.
It's an eyesore. And
They just want to know, like, they're just young women going into
Yeah.
business, they just wanted to know.
Sometimes the easiest way, you might not feel like the easiest way, but the best way to deal with these issues is for them to actually have a chat to them and say, I'm trying to run a business. This isn't a good look. Is there some way we can do
So
something
we
different?
listen.
But it's not always easy.
No, it's not very easy to deal with, unfortunately.
No.
Yeah, so the same would be for the cars parked outside on the council grounds of this. Of the
If it
street.
comes to ground, it's different kettle of fish.
Yeah, so on within the road reserve,
Yeah.
if it's unregistered and unwarranted, log a service request. We have an officer come and look at the vehicle and sticker it,
Mhm.
and then it would, they'd have X number of days to then remove that vehicle, and if it's not, it then gets towed.
Was Matt Sparrow, was here a month or so ago, was it, a couple of months ago?
Yeah, so there was 4 vehicles fitted a couple of months ago, but all got dealt with and removed, and we didn't have to remove any of those vehicles.
Oh, cool.
Alright.
I mean, just the toilets, like, is there something happening about the toilet?
Do you want to bring that up, James?
Yeah, sure. So we have got, government funding for TIP funding for new public toilets in Ranfurly. And we've been through the process of consultation with the business group and other groups.
Yeah.
So they're going to be built, the new toilets are going to be built over in the car park on Charlemont Street. The actual building time for that, I'm hoping is going to be around April, May next year. Depending on contractors and
And is it 4?
no, it's going to be a pan toilet. Two of the toilets will be fit for families, quite a good size for disabled, and then there will be a disabled car park on the side of the toilet. So vehicles can pull it right beside disabled people, and there will be an access way coming off the rail trail, so that the rail trail users can come directly off the rail trail and use the toilets. So it's an exciting project.
Yeah.
We've got
Be good.
significant funding from central government.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people getting the trail.
Now you're talking about the art on it. Did you get anywhere? Because you were talking about, art.
Yeah, so we've gone down the route that I talked to the board about, and that's the route we're going down.
Art deco design and,
Well, it's got an Art Deco flavour.
yeah, right.
Right.
It
You know a bit about it.
will reflect the,
Have you seen it?
yeah, I've seen the draft.
Oh.
And so it will reflect what Ranfurly is all about. Not Maniototo, but Ranfurly. So there's some sporting pictures on it.
Ranfurly,
Art
sporting.
Deco pictures and.
So it's still the Ranfurly Rugby Club?
No.
Oh.
Monster, yeah, curling,
Oh, God, it's good.
there's a depiction of the Thomas Street flowering cherry trees, what else is on it?
Looks very good.
Hockey, you haven't seen it. Have you not, you've seen the draft?
No, he hasn't. He's.
I have.
You might have seen that, no, you have not seen it. So, we just, it's a work in progress.
Sure.
Yep.
Anything.
Looks good.
Right. Thank you. Right, can I have someone move those members' reports, please?
I'll do that.
Stuart Duncan, a seconder, please. Becky McCauley, all those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried, thank you. Right. Governance report. Yay.
Who's doing that? Louise.
I have to read it. Oh, I've lost it. No, it wasn't.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Got enough about the Federal building? Oh, yeah.
I'll move the report.
You found those, Becky?
Yeah.
Right. Very interesting to read.
So, yeah, they're just a report of what's happening and what's taking along, what's been ticked off, what's still coming up. Right, good.
Someone move those, you accept, Stu?
Yeah.
Second it? Duncan Hell, all those in favour? All right, against? Carried, thank you.
So the next meeting.
7th of February 2023. Right. Now I need a resolution to exclude the public. Pardon? Why did you write it down here then?
Did I?
Yeah.
Governance report.
Oh,
Oh, no, that's.
that's all right. So, we're our meeting shut. Thank everyone for their attendance over the year. Thank the staff. Wayne for putting up with me for missing all the emails and questions. For all the staff coming along, Dennis, everyone else here. Louise. Wish everyone a very Merry Christmas. Well, not too merry, Happy New Year. And we'll see everyone on the
February.
7th of February. Thank you very much.